Alafia, my dear seekers and darklings. Welcome to the report for the new moon in Capricorn. We're going to be doing this one from a different setting, as you can tell, as you can see. This is from my parents' house in my childhood bedroom from my beloved hometown of Isabela. So let's get down to brass tacks, shall we? Now, as always, new moons are not only about new chapters of life, new approaches to whatever the sign they happen in, but they're also about a coming together of the ways in which we might shine in public and the way that we feel, our core identities and our emotional identities, what we do at home or matters that have to do with home and family, especially with maternal figures. Maternal figures, I want to say. The meeting of that with our public persona, the things that we have fun doing, the things that we are maybe successful at. And in this case, it's in the sign of Capricorn, right? So it's a coming together of reputation and structure, career, elders, relationship with elders, the status quo, discipline, time, coming together in public with how those things play out and manifest in our home life, or playing out in a way that is more emotionally satisfying. There should be a period of us half establishing a new balance between home and work life, for example. Reputation and how we are in the comfort of our homes. Half chosen, half just it's gonna happen in such a way that it's also gonna change the relationship and the balance between these things. But now, as always, the sun and the moon are not the only agents that we're gonna be discussing during this report. So stick with me if you want to hear more about the rest of the context, everything else that's going on. Now, there's quite a few things to talk about, but among the aspects, something that's interesting and unique about this new moon is that not only do we once again have a grand dirty trine, earth signs, forming a triangle in the sky, we also have a grand fire trine. So there's this impulsive energy that is to be expected that day, and a tendency to embody whatever it is that impulsively we want to do, right? It is going to have an effect. We're not just going to do things impulsively. They're going to have an effect. They're going to turn into things. They're going to create things. One thing pretty much follows the other. But although you could see a sort of diamond shape here, there's actually no oppositions this time. Properly speaking, there are not really any oppositions this time. And so there's no longer this sense of being conflicted, of having to choose between two extremes or between two areas of our lives in one way or another. But there is definitely something here about some of the things that we want to get done having a huge obstacle in the way, or not being able to do certain things because we are too busy doing something else. Okay? This might turn out to be a good time to start a business, because it is a new moon in Capricorn. But if it's going to be a new business or a new job or a new approach to work, it definitely is going to require that it honors your sense of emotional fulfillment. It honors your capacity for rest, that it honors the other structures in your life, because quite literally, if it doesn't meet those criteria, it's not going to be possible. Capricorn is not exactly a very forgiving sign. It's just either do you meet criteria or do you not? And you get whatever results to the answer to that question. So I'm going to elaborate on the next little clip, but that's something that I wanted to mention before I get off and back to the familiar space. So, having spoken of at least the grand trines, right? One in the element of fire, one in the element of earth. What else is going to be happening around this new moon? So, let me see, where do I want to continue? There is most notably a trine between Mars and retrograde Uranus in Taurus, which, being part of the grand dirty trine, has to do with us embodying things, right? Embodying our values, embodying them, especially in our careers, in our jobs, or in settings where we have to, deal with elders. But that aspect, without considering the third point, right, talks about us asserting ourselves in the world in a way that's above all aimed at being responsible, at being legal, at being, I want to say, time-proven, somewhat conservative, beyond reproach. And while we start doing that, or as we're doing that, we might come to realize that either this old-timey way of doing things doesn't fit our new values, doesn't actually reflect our new values, or it will help us realize that we should have been acting in a way that was this responsible and this organized and this conservative and this careful and this respectful and ethical and moral, and wonder why it is that we weren't doing that and how our body and our health might be to blame. This will also, more likely than not, trigger changes in our material possessions, what we have and what we don't have, upon wanting to act upon the world, not only in a way that's responsible, practical, those aspects of the Capricornian archetype, but also Capricorn in a lot of ways being the sign of things such as the bones, being the sign of structures themselves. In many ways, much like Cancer, Capricorn, the archetype of Capricorn, is of a sign that is very minimalistic. It's more of a sign of bare bones, pure structure, nothing unnecessary, no fluff, no flourish, no excess, right? And it's going to be the start of a period in which we start to change the way that we do things, the way that we work, the way that we assert ourselves, the way that we compete, the way that we exercise aggression, from the starting point of, I need to take into consideration the ways that my values have changed, or I need to take into consideration, I need to factor in what my body is now capable of, compared to before, right? And being more realistic in that sense. Another aspect that I think needs to be talked about with this new moon is the North Node conjunct Chiron in Aries. This isn't something that started in this new moon. It's something that's been going on. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you'll see that I've mentioned it. We are craving living a life that's more authentic, that's more independent, that's more, I want to say, where we show more initiative, or where maybe like we fight for a space for ourselves, we take up space more boldly, and face head on the fact that in many instances and in many situations, what's really in our way is ourselves. It's us not daring to compete, not daring to be aggressive where it is necessary, where it is valuable and important, or or not daring to branch out on our own without anyone's help, or not just starting that new thing that's been in our heads for a while. And this new moon, there's a conflict between how we want to unite the way that we show up in public and our home life, or the way that we have fun and what is emotionally fulfilling for us at a deeper level, and especially as, directed toward career and reputation and structures. It very well might be hard to put that together with showing initiative, with making a space for ourselves. But we, from what I'm looking at this in this chart, right, we kind of don't really have a choice there. In order to do more of what professionally is more satisfying for us and is more fun for us and gives us better chances to shine in public, we are apparently going to have to fight for that space. We are basically going to have to compete for that space, and exactly in areas or in ways that we have traumas around, or that we are insecure about, or that we don't see as our strong suits or strong points. Feeling like a fish out of water. There could very well be some imposter syndrome. There could very well be, it could even just be a loathing toward having to do things in a way that's so aggressive and straightforward and impulsive and selfish, when, maybe we are more inclined to be diplomatic and balanced and polite. And it very much looks like, nope, you want that professional thing, you want to change your reputation in that particular way, you want to reduce, you want to be more practical, you want to get more bang for your buck, you're gonna have to fight for it. People are not gonna give it to you because you presented a nice and well thought out, nicely worded email, a polite approach, an eloquent speech. No, you're gonna have to take it. In a lot of ways, you're gonna have to take it if that's the life that you want to live. It's also, I'm also looking here at, a time in which we have to grow by respecting and, I want to say, respecting and working with our bodies, working with our values, working with what we've got, rather than against it, rather than overestimate. And there is, very possibly going to be a tendency to be excessively optimistic. Saturn in Pisces, you have to reel in that optimism because it's not realistic. Don't overshoot it. Don't get overambitious with trying to do something. And by overambitious, I mean, trying to get a really big result with a shaky foundation, or with a bad foundation, like knowingly a bad foundation and expecting to get lucky. This is not the time to do that. This is not the time. What is likelier is that if you are creative and you listen to intuitive sources, I'm hoping, right, that this is also a day and a night in which you exercise a lot of discernment, a lot of careful consideration before making decisions, so that you can tell the difference between intuition and bias, positive bias. Truth is truth. Intuition is an access to truth, and truth does not always feel great. It doesn't always feel empowering. Sometimes intuition tells you things you don't want to hear, or shows you things you don't want to see. This is a time, right, in which, you're more likely to get revelations about what not to do and where to stay your hand and where to not get into, than of things to try, unless the intuitions you get about things to try are about things that you can't just do once and get lucky. If the intuitions are about a new discipline, a thing that you would have to start doing this day and then do every day for a long time, that you might get on this new moon. But no get rich quick schemes. Sorry. If anything, what I'm seeing here is more of a likeliness that, you might have to work with less resources because there was a water or alcohol or altered states of consciousness related incident or accident. Having to, for example, make changes to your healthcare or go see a doctor because something happened with some form of liquid, and you can't just ignore it and keep working, or you can't just ignore it because you want to do something for your career. You if anything, it's more like you're gonna have to responsibly say no to the career thing, even though you want to say yes, and instead say no to take care of your health. Those are events that are likelier to happen. And there's something about things falling into place in a way that doesn't particularly care for your feelings or your desires, or it's more of a, if harsher realities land, they are real, and the only way to deal with them is, the only way out is through. There is no escape. There is no clever way of going around it. You're gonna have to face a lot of things head on, especially on this day, from the looks of things. This very much goes hand in hand as well with you might get lucky and find the right words to say if you are honest with people when you're going through situations. There is a conjunction between Mercury and the part of fortune. Alhamdulillah, as ironic as it may seem, but I am saying it in Arabic because the part of fortune is an Arabic part. It was Arab Muslims who came up with it and discovered it. It's a mathematical concept. So yeah, you might get lucky and find the right words to say at the right time, and this might also work out in your favor in a way that brings growth and long-term learning. This might very well be a good time to sign up for some educational program or to study a degree, even if it's going to take you a few years, but it is going to lead to growth, and it very much is likely to lead to greater wealth. If that's something that you're considering doing, or something that you've been, mulling over, or if it's something that comes up, if an opportunity like this comes up, this says you should say yes. The chart I'm looking at is you should say yes to that learning and or teaching opportunity, and it's probably going to be both. There's a lot here about chances to practice what you preach. Okay, so those are the things that come to me with the aspects. If I pick them apart detail by detail a little, this looks like a new moon of restructuring, and significant parts of that restructuring not being in our control, not being something we can have an opinion on, or that we can decide, or that regardless of our opinion or our feelings, we're going to have to deal with, because realities, Capricorn is very much a sign of realities that are more often than not limiting rather than empowering. But if you've been saving up, if you've put in the legwork, if you've been responsible, if you've been disciplined so far, this very well might be a day in which a very important door opens for you. And especially things related to career, this might very well be the place where you finally have a professional breakthrough that you've been working towards for a long time. And it might be connected to academia. I'm also speaking these things into existence, right? Ashe. I want this to pan out that way. personally in my life, there's something that I am looking at that I'd like to happen that's shaping up around this time. But it doesn't change the fact that that is also, how it shows up in the chart. It's not something I'm just saying because of wishful thinking, or it is there in the chart, right? Changes to professional things, if you get creative with them, will lead to long-term growth that, is probably going to be connected with material growth, long-term learning, long-term studies, that sort of thing. So that is it for this report and for me. I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope that you've potentially learned a thing or two. And if you haven't already, please remember to like and hit that subscribe button. Share this with your friends, family, anyone you think could benefit from seeing this. And I hope to see you again in 2 weeks.